Now let's see how to work with list in Python. We will go over some examples here. For example, usually you will notice the way we create a list is I can have any sort of variable, let's say A. Inside this variable, I can put my elements. Notice this bracket. We are using this sort of bracket, kind of starting and closing it. Now inside this, I can put my elements like 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a list for you. So whatever elements I'm going to keep inside it, it's a form of a list. Now it's not mandatory that you need to keep some elements here. I can even create a list with just a blank one. And if I just print it, it will not print me anything because I have not actually put any element in it. If you want to confirm, like I just created a variable A, but what is the type of this? You will notice that it is going to be a list. Let's execute that to understand this better. So I can just create this list here. I can just say A, which is going to be a blank list. And you can see that I'm just going to print it out by just saying print A. If I want to confirm that what kind of data type or data structure this A variable is, I can just use type of this variable. And this is a function available in Python, which is going to return me that it's a list type. Similarly, I can even plug in elements like I was showing you in the last example that I have put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Similar way, I can create another variable called as languages. Now, if you notice in this particular case, I'm creating a language with R, Python, SAS, Scala. Notice one interesting thing. I'm also keeping a numeric value here. So that's a good property as list. So keep this in mind. List can have even heterogeneous kind of data. So you can have a numeric, a string, all these things in a combination as well. If I print out this value, you will notice that it is going to return me again all the values which we have just pasted across. So you can see that I can see R, Python, SAS, Scala 42. Similar way, if I just see that what is the data structure type of this variable languages, I can just execute and see that it is going to be of list type, right? So we can see that it's of list data structure. Now, one interesting property of this list is that you can also retrieve these elements present in this list. So for example, this was my list, right? This was my list called as language here. Now, in this particular example, if I want to, let's say, retrieve any of the value, like I want to retrieve R, Python, SAS, Scala 42. This is sounding like an array to me, right? So you can see that it's kind of having multiple words present in this list. Now, this element, every element present in a list will have an index being assigned to it. And index in Python starts from 0. So let's say if I have to talk about this part, this is going to be my 0th index. So all this was present in my variable language, right? Language. So this is my 0th index, this is my first index, this is my second index, and so on. Now, if I want to, let's say, retrieve R, so I can just say language, and I can just give the index of what we want to print. So I have to again use this bracket and say 0. So it will print me R. If I put here instead of 0, 1, then it will give me Python. If I put 2, it will return me SAS and so on. So this is the way you can also retrieve your elements out of your list. Let's do that. So there's a practical for it. So let's basically complete this. So you can see here that I have a value here available, which is languages 0, and you can see that it is returning me R. I can just change it. So now let's say if I make it 2, you will notice that it is going to return me SAS because 0, 1, 2, 2 is SAS for me. Now, this is about how you can retrieve this value, right? But let's say if I want to retrieve some values together now, like I may want to, let's say, retrieve Python, SAS, like Scala together. So how I can do it? So I can give syntax like this. Let me explain you what this basically did for me. If you look here, this was my index 0, right? This is my index 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. If you look at this output, I got Python, Sass and Scala. So it is very obvious when I set 1:4, that means it is starting from index 1, whatever the value was there, which is Python, and it's matching up. But if you notice, an interesting part, 42 is the fourth index, but I am printing things till Scala. So is Python doing something wrong here? No. That's a property of a list. Whatever this index you will write on this right hand side, this will always be taken up with -1 value. For example, if you have put 4, it will take it up 4 minus 1. So it will run from index 1 to 3. Okay, that means it is going to take index 1, 2, 3. So index 1 is Python, it is returning fine. Index 2 is Sass, it is returning fine. Scala, it is returning fine. This is how you will be getting your output. So keep this in mind. The first index, this part, left hand side index, will be considered as a part of your list retrieval. But the second part of it will be having, if you are keeping the value from 1 to n, in that case, the value will be taken from 1 to n minus 1 index. So keep this in mind. Okay, this is a very important thing, because while doing a lot of analysis even further, you will notice that we will be using this a lot. Okay, so this kind of keep this in mind. This is a very important thing. Now let's come down and see a few more stuff. Now let's come down and let me again print out the value of languages so that we can just follow it. Okay, now let's keep it here. So again, I've just printed out the list, nothing else. Okay, I have just printed out the list. Now let's do a few more statements here. So if let's say I basically want to do here, I want to retrieve something. So we have just learned that I can say this is 0th index, this is 1 index, this is 2 index, this is 3 index, this is 4 index. But what is this? I have not talked about anything -1 and -2, right? So how come this -2? What does this mean now? As you can even think of that minus, if it is written, that means maybe we are talking about traversing from back, right? Maybe we are talking about now looking at this from the back. Let's execute and see that. It will confirm our theory. See this, Scala. So what basically happens? Now somebody can say that, okay, then does that mean it is going to start with -0? Is there anything called as -0? No, right? It is always like 0, 1 to 0 is, you cannot say +0 or -0. So it will be starting from -1. Okay, this index is read like -1 here. So this is going to be -1, this is going to be -2, and that's the reason you are seeing this Scala. Okay, so if you have a negative value coming up, don't get confused with it. It is basically going to be read from the backward side. So that's the reason you are getting the Scala keyword. Let's see this. What about this 1: this? Now you should tell me. It's quite easy. Just think about it for a minute. When I'm saying 1: and I'm not giving any value after that, it means start from this index 1 for me. So this is starting from my index 1, which is going to be Python here, and take up all the values after it. I don't know how many values are there. I don't care about it. Just go and give me all the values which is present here. So you will notice that it was just going to print you from starting from Python to everything else till 42. Let's see that. So if I come here and execute this, you can see that starting from Python till the last value, it is just pulling up all the values for me. This is interesting. What about -2, right? We discussed about class. Now what about if I have put this here as -2? It's quite simple. You can make out on your own, but think about it. See, we have already kind of discussed this point, that how basically this works. So when I just said that, okay, starting from here till here, it just took up from 1, 2. Similarly, this is going to means that starting from this basically after this, whatever index is there, until from the starting point, just keep on going ahead till this. And remember, it is n-1. That's the reason you are going till Sass and not till Scala. Okay. So keep this in mind, why this is coming till Sass and not Scala, because n-1. So that's where it is giving me this particular output. Awesome. Now let's go and see some other examples with it. So if you notice in this example, I have taken up this language again. I've just kept that so that you can easily read it. We need not go above again and again. And in this example, you notice that I am just going to do something called as append. So in my language, I have R, Python, SAS, Scala 42. And I just say languages.append ML and I'm printing it. So what it will do, it is going to add this ML after this. Okay. So in the end, it's going to just add up this value of ML for you. See this part. So after 42 means the last value, it is just going to append the value for me. Okay. There are few more operations after this. Let's do it in the basically in the next